My name is Diane Gorgas. As chair of the Test Administration Committee, I'm here to share some information with you, which will help you prepare for your oral certification exam. Since its inception, the purpose of ABEM certification has been to independently and validly verify a physician's competencies that have been acquired during residency training. That verification must be fair, valid, reliable, and nationally based, rather than being based on local or regional practice variations. The rigor of ABEM certification provides distinction between ABEM certified physicians and other physicians and providers of emergency care. The stakes for the public and our profession are too high to not maintain this differentiation. Developing the cases for this examination has taken hundreds of hours of work by many people. Clinically active, board-certified emergency physicians wrote the cases used in the examinations. Each case has been extensively reviewed, pre-tested, and modified by multiple case developers, psychometricians, and the chief examiners. The results of this examination will be reviewed following the exam as a final step to ensure that the quality of the cases was appropriate to allow them to be scored. The board requires the case developers and all examiners participating in the exam to be clinically active emergency physicians who see and treat patients in the emergency department. In fact, my last shift was yesterday. The board is committed to an examination that is criterion referenced. This means that we don't use a curve, arbitrary quota, or any false limits to the number of people who can pass. This testing process ensures that you are tested on your ability. If you meet the expected score, you will pass and will be ABEM certified. One of the biggest challenges with a virtual examination experience is the strength and reliability of your internet connection. It is critical that you test your computer and internet connection prior to the exam with a technical consultant from ABEM's oral exam technical vendor, Marquise. This process will take about 15 minutes. A link to schedule your tech check will be sent to you by email. It's also important for you to find a quiet, private location to take the exam. No one else will be allowed in the room with you during your exam. All the ABEM approved printed materials allowed during your exam will be emailed to you in a PDF packet for you to print prior to your examination. You may also find it helpful to review the sample cases on ABEM's website. Given the complex schedule of the oral exam, it is critical that you be on time. All times are listed in the Eastern time zone. There is a detailed check-in process for candidates, and we thank you in advance for helping us in that process. All computer apps must be turned off prior to starting the exam. You will need to show a government-issued ID to the check-in person and any time thereafter during the exam as requested. The check-in person will also conduct a visual scan of your environment. Proctors will be circulating in and out of the exam rooms throughout the exam for security and quality purposes. ABEM also has an extensive web patrolling process to check for cheating and information sharing. Your exam session will be about 3 hours long. Case administrations are scheduled every 25 minutes, with 15 minutes for case administration, 5 minutes for scoring, and 5 minutes for examiners to transition between cases. There is one 10-minute break following your fourth case. Please note that you will be in the same Zoom breakout room for the entire exam session. The examiners will come to you. It will definitely feel like there are times that you are sitting with nothing to do. At the beginning of the session, remember that other candidates are being checked in. Transitioning between cases takes time since examiners are moving between Zoom rooms and scoring your cases. We appreciate your patience. To ensure the integrity of the exam, there are items that you are allowed to have with you during the exam, and there are other items that are not permitted. For instance, you should have your printed exam note sheets and reference documents provided by ABEM. You may also have health-related items, including visual or hearing aids, inhalers, tissues, etc. Drinks and snacks are also permitted. Let me emphasize that you may not discuss anything about the cases during or once you leave the session. No recording devices, cameras, calculators, or smartphones are permitted in the examination area. You are also not permitted to have any computer programs or tabs open other than the ones used for your exam. Please be sure to disable Alexa and Siri on all of your devices. We know from experience with the virtual oral exam that interruptions may occur. We expect them, and so should you. If you or your examiner lose your connection, you can re-enter the Zoom room. Simply log back in as you did to begin your exam session, and ABEM staff will be able to assist you in getting back to your exam room. If you cannot reconnect, contact ABEM with the phone number provided in your exam packet. If someone enters the physical room in which you are testing, you will need to have them leave immediately. Your exam will continue unless the examiner determines there was a more substantial disruption. The board has contingencies for internet and computer issues, including buffer time and makeup cases. We assure you that every effort will be made to continue the examination, and technical disruptions will not result in you failing the encounter. Examiners have been asked to recuse themselves from examining you if they have worked with you in the past or if they know you socially. There are contingency plans in place for this scenario. We ask that you let the examiner know, and an ABEM staff person will quickly get another examiner for you. There are no triples in this exam. You will be completing 6 single cases and 1 structured interview case. The structured interview case is different, as there is no role playing in the case. The examiner will ask you questions like, why did you do that? In order to understand your thought process. You will have 1 examiner for each case administration. All stimuli for this exam are static. Note that although there will always be multiple stimulus images listed, the list does not indicate the actual number of stimuli. Examiners will share their screen with you to enable you to view case stimuli. You will not be able to interact with the images yourself other than to magnify them. You can zoom in and out of these shared images by selecting zoom ratio under the View Options menu in the Zoom interface. In each of these standard encounters, you are in charge. You will receive introductory materials such as an admitting form, vital signs, perhaps a picture, and then you drive the patient's care. Your examiner will respond with the appropriate information and provide you with clues about what might be happening with the patient. The examiner is responsible for the timing of the case and will give you every opportunity to finish the case within the allotted amount of time. You will not be given any warning of specific time remaining. Remember, though you are allotted 15 minutes to complete your cases, they often take less time. When the case naturally concludes, your examiner will end the case saying something like, "This concludes the case." As you complete the exam, you should assume all typical emergency department resources are available unless your examiner indicates otherwise. You will be expected to have current knowledge about commonly used drugs and doses. However, it is permissible to say to the examiner that you would like to look up information, such as medications and dosages. You will not be penalized for requesting this information. Abnormal laboratory results and panic values will not be highlighted or given to you on the lab reports. We ask that you frequently refer to the lab value sheet to determine abnormalities if you are uncertain. Remember that this examination is not intended to reproduce your clinical experience in the emergency department. It is intended to assess your performance and specific competencies in a controlled evaluation setting. Your examiners have been extensively trained to deliver your exam fairly and consistently. They are taught to avoid giving feedback, positive or negative, that might affect your responses. If you believe that your examiner has made an error in delivering the examination or has acted inappropriately, talk to the ABEM staff person at the end of your exam session, and they will arrange for you to talk to an examination team leader about your concerns. The case will begin when the examiner starts providing you with case materials. Again, do not start writing on note sheets until after the case begins. Most of the cases use a familiar format. You are expected to manage a case just as you would in the ED, starting with the patient with an undifferentiated presentation. The examiner will play several roles for you during the case, such as the patient, a family member, or the nurse. These cases simulate real life. You can talk to the patient, being played by your examiner, the way you normally would speak with the patient. You can also ask them to run tests or supply data, just like you would in the ED. For each single standard case, you will be evaluated on the 8 scales listed on the screen. Following the examination, your scores will be compared to the passing score to determine whether you have passed the exam. The structured interview is likely less familiar as a testing format, but should be very familiar in terms of what you do as an emergency physician. There are times when the examiner may give you information that you did not ask for. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you missed an earlier action. It is an intentional part of the case design. The examiner will frequently ask, why did you do something? Like, doctor, you ordered a magnesium level on this patient. Why did you do that? In this way, you get to explain your thought process, which is like verbally showing your work. For each structured interview case, you will be evaluated on the 8 stages of a typical patient interaction. When you have completed your last scheduled case, please remain in your breakout room. Do not leave the exam until you are formally released by an ABEM staff person. And remember, don't discuss the cases. After the exam, it will take some time to determine the passing score and to perform the extensive psychometric and quality control processes that ensure a fair, valid, and reliable exam for all candidates. The board promises to provide you your score within 90 days, although typically scores are available sooner than that. We cannot provide you your score over the phone, so we ask that you not call the office until 90 days have passed, or if you are aware that others have received their scores. Finally, before you take the examination, ABEM would like to applaud your career choice of emergency medicine and your dedication to the care of the acutely ill and injured patients. Thank you.